Hi, I'm Gray Williams, author of The End of the Line, which is out now in ebook for only $1.99 and in audiobook for one Audible credit. The End of the Line is set in the modern day world with one major difference: magic is real. The story follows criminal Amanda Coleman as she and her crew hurtle through Siberia. Locked away in a train's cargo container, they have with them a terrible demon bound in chains who is responsible for killing their friends and family. At the end of their journey, they hope to find the Circle, the only place where the demon can be killed. But first, they have to survive as the demon uses its mind-altering powers against them as it tries to escape. So people trapped in a small room. The End of the Line is now more topical than ever, and you should definitely buy it. And to persuade you, I thought I should read a bit to you. And to get your blood pumping, shake off the cobwebs, I thought today I'd read from a later chapter in the book, something with a bit of action. So here we go. So we're entering this bit of the book where the crew no longer know which of them can be trusted. The demon has got too much into their heads, can make them do things that they don't want to do. So at the point that we are entering the book, they have suspected their friend Skeeves of being under the influence of the demon, and they've taken matters into their own hands by trying to preemptively tie him up. Skeeves continued to plead as Caleb took the belt from Amanda. There was ink on his left hand, smeared between his second and third finger. Caleb said nothing as he began looping the belt around Skeeves's wrists the moment they touched, leaning into the boy to keep him in place. "What did he want you to do?" Amanda demanded. "What did he want?" "Nothing. I wasn't listening to him. That was all of you. I didn't do the ink. He made me. He controlled me and let me go." "Are we going to keep him tied up the rest of the way?" Steph asked. Amanda grimaced, intent on holding Skeeves square while Caleb worked, the belt's loops getting shorter and shorter, the leather edges cutting into the flesh of Skeeves's hands. "Make things easier," said Caleb. "If you want, I could—" "No magic," Amanda snapped. "You even think about it, we'll tie you up next. You want to help? Read your books." She could hear Steph scrambling behind her. There was the flutter of pages and rattle of the bag as she shoved everything inside, the girl retreating back into her shell. Skeeves jerked, surprising the pair of them enough that they staggered backwards, giving Skeeves room enough to lift a leg and press his knee to the wall. Another push, and he switched his knee with his foot. Amanda felt Caleb's muscles compress under his coat, the big man bracing himself a moment before Skeeves pushed off the wall. The boy might as well have pushed against a truck. Amanda bashed her cheek against Skeeves's head as the boy was sent crashing back against the wall, knocking the wind out of him. The curtain closed, Steph hiding herself from the fight. "Stay out here," Amanda called, "where we can see you." "Fuck," Skeeves gasped. "Don't tell my brother. Please don't tell my brother." The belt was secure now, the prong through the hole, Skeeves flexing his fingers to keep the circulation going. Leather cracked against leather as Caleb slotted the belt through its loops. The sound seemed to tug the strength from Skeeves. He leaned against the wall, his whole body shaking as he sobbed. "He made me, I swear." Caleb's face was stone. "Sit him down. We're doing his ankles." "Just let me go," Skeeves managed, addressing the demon as they urged him to sit. "I'm worth nothing to you. No message this time, no message." "What did he want?" Amanda demanded. Skeeves curled, his head almost touching his knees, crying hard. His lips were peeled back from his teeth, fat drops falling from the end of his nose. "Fuck's sake, Skeeves," Caleb growled, reaching for the boy's belt to bind his ankles. Skeeves snorted. It could almost have been a laugh. The shaking stopped, the boy's grief cut off like he'd flicked a switch. "Sit up," Amanda prodded Skeeves in the shoulder. "Sit up." The boy laughed, the snort becoming a chortle, building to a full-bellied laugh. He howled with laughter, mouth gaping, eyes unseeing, longer and louder until his lungs strained with the effort. It sent chills down Amanda's spine, forced her to retreat. Even Caleb had a momentary flicker. Amanda's ears caught the smallest noise, some small release of pressure from the back of the carriage. Behind the curtain. "Steph? Just a minute." There was something in the way she said it. Skeeves laughed all the harder, looking Amanda straight in the eye, grinning, wide enough to show his back teeth. Amanda was beginning to get an instinct for that look. It wasn't Skeeves staring back out at her from those eyes. "Steph, get out here right now." "Almost done." Caleb nodded, keeping Skeeves pinned with a big flat palm. "No, no." Amanda was already striding over. She caught the harsh scent of chemicals. Steph swept the curtain aside with a wide smile, arms wide open like a magician revealing her latest trick. In her hand, Amanda's lighter glinted in the lamplight. She dropped it by the quad bike into Bridget's bag crammed with her notebooks. The flames leapt with a whomp of ignition. Amanda threw her hands up to protect her face from the fireball's hot breath, colours dancing across her vision. Flames licked at the walls, the quad bike ablaze. The girl too, fire quickly eating its way up the back of her jacket. The demon's laugh jumped from Skeeves' throat to Steph's with such smoothness that it made the hairs on Amanda's neck stand on end. She could see the man looking out from behind the girl's eyes, the petrol that ran down her chin where she'd silently, unrelentingly chewed her way through the quad's fuel line. Ignited, the laugh jackknifing into a scream of pain and terror. No time to think, Amanda yanked the possessed girl aside, sending her tumbling into the boxes and set the table tipping onto its side. Already the heat was unbearable. She recoiled, the fire like sunburn across her face, singeing her hair. The petrol was burning across the surface of Bridget's bag, the zip teeth splaying, expanding with the heat. Reeves had doused the inside with petrol too, the contents a bright inferno. "Fuck, you've got to let me go," yelled Skeeves, Caleb snapping the buckle's prong from its hole. Amanda grabbed the bag, trying not to choke on the black smoke, the smells of burnt hair and burning leather. She wrenched it from the flames. Caleb had turned his attention to Steph, beating at the girl's burning tights and jacket, flames leaking out from around his gloved hands. The belt falling from around Skeeves' wrists, the boy dove across the floor, coming back up with a 2-litre bottle of water. Seeing him from the corner of his eye, Caleb battered it from his hands. It skidded away, rolling towards the prisoner. "No water! Make things worse!" The young girl put out. Caleb turned to help Amanda. Amanda managed 3 or 4 steps away from the quad before the bag split at the seams, the burning contents spilling at her feet. Caleb leapt away, pulling Steph to her feet with one meaty hand. He kicked away the sleeping bags as the flames began to lick at the nearest tumbled plastic box. Skeeves was already stamping at the nearest textbook. Caleb kicked the knife away, the handle smoking, blistered, but the blade shining and glinting in the light as it spun into the wall, lost in the material of Caleb's sleeping bag. Amanda dropped the bag with the rest of it as Caleb began working his coat off. The room was already filled with foul black smoke. The icy air was boiling. As they moved, the 4 of them bounced off one another against the walls, a confusion of cross purposes. Eyes streaming, Amanda looked at the quad bike, wondering if she should take her coat off to smother the flames there. But the flames were already licking under the wheel arches, thick, tarry smoke pouring from the tyres. Only one way this was going to go. She turned her back on the blaze. The room was in uproar, the smoke choking the room, everyone in everyone else's way. Steph was staring, horrified at the disaster, her eyes small and bare without her glasses. She must have lost them in the fall. Pushing past the others, Amanda grabbed the girl by her jacket, shouting in her face. "Where is it?" Amanda already had her hands in the girl's pockets, then down her sides, feeling at her hips. "Emily, where's your key? We need to open the door." The girl blinked, comprehension taking its time. "It's..." The way she twisted her body, Amanda knew what she meant. She was already reaching around her, slipping hands into the girl's back pockets and finding the hard silver of the metal. Caleb was on his hands and knees, smothering and patting at the flames of the textbooks with his coat, fast and methodical, throwing each item aside once it was out and moving to the next. Ash drifted around him like snowflakes. The air was full of them, dancing in the heat currents. Skeeves was at the big man's side, slapping at things with his bare hands. "We need to get the door open." That's what Amanda intended to say, but instead she drew in a thick lungful of chemical smoke that grated her lungs and made her cough. The heat was growing, the flames rising, the air tinted a noxious brown. She had 2 keys in her hand now. She worked her way around Caleb, using the man's back to steady herself. Her head was swimming. The padlocks rattled with the movement of the train. She didn't know which key fitted with which lock, forcing her to try each in turn. The third came away first, then the fourth. She threw them aside. "Come on." Her voice was a croak. She coughed again. Skeebs came forward, brandishing his key. Amanda took it. The top padlock came away. Coughing non-stop now, eyes burning, Amanda turned her attention back towards the back of the carriage. The whole quad was up in flames now, flames boiling in under the carriage, the chassis, the walls clanging as they expanded with the heat. It was fountaining off the ceiling now, smoke rolling and thickening in every direction. Eyes the merest watering slits, head half turned to shield her face, Amanda managed to hold her arms in the heat long enough to release the brakes. Gloves smoking and the heat rubbing her hands raw, she pulled the bike toward her, ploughing her way through the boxes behind, kicking a clear path through the sleeping bags as best she could. The heat around her legs was nigh on unbearable. She needed to do this, needed to do it for her daughter. Skeebs had worked the last of the locks. He rolled the door open, the world beyond incandescent. A whirlwind tore through the room, ash swirling with Skeebs' crisp packets, burnt pages from the burning books, dancing a moment before they were consumed by the daylight. The cold hit Amanda like a slap to the face, scalding her skin just the same as the scorching air before her. No finesse, no time. She pulled the quad to the door, ran to its rear, planted her boot, and pushed. The front wheels left the cabin, the burning undercarriage hitting the floor with a bang that shook the room. A second hard boot and the thing disappeared. It hit the rushing ground nose first. Shards flew in all directions as it pinwheeled through the air before it disappeared, sucked away from the route behind them. Bending down, she beat at the flames that had caught her jeans and sleeves. She saw the playing card pinned under her boot, Simon and herself in the cinema, her head on his shoulder, serene. Snatching it up, she turned to her sleeping bag. She'd been playing with her cards when the chaos had started. Now the world dropped out from under her when she saw the empty space where they'd been. No! The word was snatched away in the wind. Her heart felt like it had been pulled out from under her ribs. And suddenly she saw them everywhere, pinned to the walls, caught in the twisted rucks of the sleeping bags, shivering against the prisoner, the boxes, the table. The entire carriage was plastered with her memories. Lifting her arm, she found another stuck on her elbow, pressed against her on its way out the door. Making to grab it, the wind plucked it out between her fingers, out the door and away. How many had she lost? Lurching, feeling like she was in a nightmare, she made for the door. The flames were gone. The door needed to be closed before she lost anything else. The door began to roll in its tracks, trees, snow and stones whipping by a foot away. Amanda! Something hit her in the side, sending her into the screaming wind. The engine roared in her ears, sleet stung her face, wind battered at her. She was bent around the door, feet inside but out from under her, clinging to the door so hard she could feel her knuckles shifting in her hands. A moment felt like a lifetime. Swinging her body, pulling with everything she had, she spun back into the carriage, overcompensating until her back hit the door from the inside. She slid down, dazed, desperate to catch her breath. There was a card in front of her, caught up in Caleb's sleeping bag. She rolled onto her hands and knees, intent on getting them back in her pocket where they belonged. Amanda! Skeebs had managed to plant his boot into the adjacent wall beside the door, his body being twisted around the frame and out into the freezing air. Caleb's huge hands clasped the boy by the shoulders, those piston-like arms working to shove the boy out onto the blurring train track beneath. The demon had got him. So there you go. The End of the Line is out now in ebook from $1.99 and in audio. Its sequel will be announced soon, and that will be coming out in June 2020. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Gray_books, and if you head to graywilliamsbooks.com, you can sign up to my newsletter where you will receive a free short story on sign up. But until then, thank you very much to Super Alex Fantasy Club for hosting this, and to everyone else out there. Thanks so much for your time. Stay safe, stay sane, and I will see you on the other side. Thank you very much.